Are you silly, generous, and opinionated? Or creative, adventurous, and studious? Want to know which Book Interrupted member you're most like? Try visiting www.bookinterrupted.com/members to find out.
Parental guidance is recommended because this episode has mature topics and strong language. Here are some moments you can look forward to during this episode of Book Interrupted.
When I'm reading this book, I was like, this book has not aged well, and I wonder what everybody else thinks.
But once again, I think we've come a long way discussing mental illness.
If you want to get really dark, you know?
Let's get dark.
If you want to double down on dark.
I'm pregnant and having a baby. I'm like, that's a choice. And so like I have like a negative reaction.
Yeah.
It's a classic bad parent badminton metaphor.
That's true.
It's a tale as old as time, really.
Because when you did your gagging thing, I was like, I know that face.
That's a dying face.
I saw that face in Red Lobster, 1997.
2 lawsuits coming your way, coming in hot.
You're
Red Lobster
first.
and Elizabeth Gilbert.
This is the lawsuit episode.
This is a lawsuit episode.
This isn't the only one. There's lots of misinformation I like to spew.
God.
Mind, body, and soul. The information is the goal. Try to learn something new without being distracted. Mind, body, and soul. The information is the goal. Try to learn something new without being disrupted. Mind, body, and soul. Inspiration is the goal. And we're gonna talk it out on Book Interrupted.
Welcome to Book Interrupted, a book club for busy people to connect and one that celebrates life's interruptions. During this book cycle, we're reading Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. This book was made into a movie in 2010 and stars Julia Roberts. A celebrated writer's irresistible, candid, and eloquent account of her pursuit for worldly pleasure, spiritual devotion, and what she really wanted out of life. An intensely articulate memoir of self-discovery, Eat, Pray, Love is about what can happen when you claim responsibility for your own contentment and stop trying to live in imitation of society's ideals. This is certain to touch anyone who has ever woken up to the unrelenting need for change. Let's listen in to this episode's group discussion.
Okay, today we're talking about Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert.
And it's Leah's book pick, so we're back to people having book picks again.
Oh yeah, it's my book pick.
Yeah, the first book of season 4.
Yeah, first book,
Right?
yeah.
Season 4. Holy moly.
So this season we're doing books that also had movies made based on them. Did everyone rewatch the movie? Did everyone read the book? What do we think? What do we like? And my guess is, what did we hate?
I had never read the book before or watched the movie, so I did both.
Yeah. And
I hated it.
Haiti McHaterstein.
It was really hard. At some point, I switched to the audiobook and I listened to it on double time just to get through it. It was still too long. It was just like,
Totally. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you listened to the audiobook too, because I wanted to talk about the audiobook.
okay, go ahead.
Interesting. Okay. So what about the audiobook? First of all, was the author the narrator?
Yes.
I think so.
And
I already read it before and I didn't want to reread it, but I also didn't want to not reread it because I read it so long ago that I was like, I'm not going to remember. I don't remember books I just read. So I'm not going to remember this book either, even if it's a book that had a major impact on me.
I'm the same. I could just read a book over and over and not remember anything.
It's a feeling, right? More than a knowledge.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I'll try Audible, or you get ads every once in a while, and it was like, you can have 2 free books, and I was like, maybe I'll do this because I was against listening to books. I decided to listen to it. That was great.
So you listened to it on Audible too, Mare?
Yeah, like half of it. I have the
Yeah.
book here. I got it from the library. Actually, I got the audiobook through my library as well.
Oh, sweet.
They have Libby and Hoopla and different apps that you can get.
Oh, nice.
She uses a little accent voice whenever she's being someone else.
Oh, no.
It's very cringy.
It's so cringy. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
Katut Lier, I think his name is, right? Like her medicine man in Bali.
Yeah.
Whenever she's being him talking, she's like, you go, do. Like, it's so bad. And
yeah.
I'm sure, like, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming she wrote it so that the reader might read it in broken English, but it was so,
She didn't have to do the accents.
yes.
And her Indian friend at the ashram
Yeah.
as well. And I was just like, oh man, this makes me like it less.
Same.
Yeah, I would assume then this was recorded many years ago in
Yes.
the original.
I believe so. I mean, that was kind of my question that I was going to ask. Does everybody think that this book aged well?
No, I don't think it aged well at all.
No.
At all. It was like reading a different book than I remember.
It's like after reading White Fragility, and then you read this book, and there's a lot of white saviorism and white woman tears. That's kind of what the book is doing. I watched the movie too. And in the movie, people are telling her their problems, like her friend whose husband almost killed her by beating her with a motorcycle helmet. And then the movie just makes her think about herself. She's like meeting all these people with these bigger, one might say bigger problems. I mean, everybody's got their problems and it's in context to your life. I get it. But then in the movie, she's watching her friend get married when she doesn't want to be married, but like she kind of has to. And then in the movie, she just makes her think of her own marriage, and she's smiling at the wedding and her friend does not seem happy. Like, it's just, there's something about it that
I really disliked that. There were some very cringy parts for me too that I didn't remember when I read it in 2008. The stereotype she uses in the books to describe things made me feel like icky, but I feel like the movie was worse. No one was being forced into a marriage they didn't want to be in. The girl was just talking about how her sister is getting married and her parents are like, you're getting to the age where, you know, you'll meet matchmakers and maybe we should think about you eventually getting married and stuff. But she wasn't getting married.
That's
and
true.
Her parents were forcing her to get married. And then in the movie, they decided, let's paint this girl's life as her parents are forcing her into an arranged marriage that she doesn't want. I feel like they just wanted to lean into these negative stereotypes about different places, which I didn't like.
Honestly, the book and the movie are like not even the same. Equally awkward and uncomfortable, but aside from the three places, they don't even belong together.
Yeah.
As it's not the same book as the movie.
It's not
It's
the
so
same.
funny. I remember this all different. I remember the movie different. I love Julia Roberts. So that's the only like redeeming quality in the movie. In
Yeah.
the book, I was like, I can't believe I picked this. It was such a strange experience. Like, this is nothing I remembered. And the movie, I remember loving this movie. And I was just
It's
like,
funny
no.
because like where you are in your life, the experiences you've had, and all that stuff changes how you experience a book a little bit too, right? And like context, because when I'm reading this book, I was like, this book has not aged well. And I wonder what everybody else thinks. But I think
aged well.
because we've changed. But
I didn't think it was that bad. I still liked the message of,
Yeah.
I don't know, follow your truth and really know yourself before you can do things or whatever. Like, I'm not on the same page with you guys when you're all like, it didn't age well and holy crap. I see the white woman tears and the saviorism. Like, I definitely see those things for sure. But I wasn't like, oh my God, this book is entirely different than the first time. But that audio experience was not cool. I wonder if I have some blindness or something because of my original relationship with the book. But the blindfold is ripped off by full-on really poor impersonations of what other people sound like. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I didn't rewatch the movie, but I always didn't like the movie. The movie was always stupid. It was always terrible. It doesn't matter if it was
it
right
kind
after
of
the book or...
missed some of the points where you're like, well, that was a good point. They just changed it, and you're like, well, now it's worse.
Well, I like the book.
I have two things to say that one's negative and one's positive, but you go ahead. Oh, what's happening? For those listening, if you go to YouTube, all of a sudden there's balloons in the background of my.
Hooray!
The two things that is it because you said positive? Like, it's like
Positive, and I was like, hooray!
I don't know.
Really good.
Maybe
Finally.
thought I said happy birthday. I don't know. Sarah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the movie just was more about, I think, her love relationships. It didn't show like how she struggled with depression as much as the book did. And I liked the part of the book that talked a lot about connecting with God and finding out who she is and all the meditation stuff. I re-enjoyed that part of the book. And when she met with the medicine man, the wisdom that he gave her and the wisdom she got from her teachers, those kind of things. I really like that. I wasn't so much into the Italy part. I was just like, oh, other than I think it laid the foundation of she's really struggling with mental illness. But once again, I think we've come a long way discussing mental illness than we were back in 2008. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's why this book was so groundbreaking back then, because she's openly talking about being depressed and how it feels and how it weighs her down and how it follows her around and how she found a spiritual path and that's what finally released her from it. So I like those kind of messages in the book. So I think the movie cuts out all the things I really liked about the book. You know what I mean? Like there's still cringy parts in the book that I'm like, ooh, but overall, I like those kind of spiritual things that she had in the book and her trying to really feel herself instead of what those expectations are of the outside world on her.
I think that's very fair. Yeah.
I like the way she describes things. I don't know how to characterize it. Like, and because Mare's like, there's a lot of words in this book. That's why, because it takes her about 80 words just to describe the color green or whatever, right? So,
Yeah.
but I did like,
It's
I
very
do
tense.
enjoy that. Her, I don't know what you want to call it, her voice or her tone, or I like the way that she writes or talks, or I don't even know.
I don't. I really disliked her tone. I think I was just in so much shock. Where was I at that time that this felt so different? I think maybe it's what Sarah's describing is I hadn't heard someone speak about this, so I felt so connected to it. And now I feel like all I do is speak about mental health. Yeah, it just felt like two worlds apart. I think it's fair to say that the underlying message of this book is good. That spiritual development and following your heart or your path or your own wisdom and using the wisdom of people who have practiced and walked that path before you. But her, it was bothering me. She's a good writer. She can really paint a picture with words. And I still felt, I have a new copy. Did your guys have a new preface? She like sets a tone, this
No.
many years later. Does any of your guys have this?
Yes, I have that.
No.
Yeah.
Mine's still from 2008. This is my original one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the preface is usually written by somebody else, but she writes her own.
Yeah, she has a 10th anniversary preface. And I don't know, again, maybe that's where she is in her life when that came out, but it was very cold, very dismissive of people that have said bad things about the book. I don't know. It almost like that preface set the tone for me being like, then I'm rereading it after with this new dark cloud over it. So that was just a distasteful way to start a book. Yeah, the movie, I mean, I like the movie for the whole Bali half of it, the love story, because he's so adorable. You can't not like that classic 2000s love story setup. But really, the book has one message and the movie has a love story message. That's kind of all it is.
That's usually what they do.
That's all.
Even if there isn't
Yeah.
a love story in it, like The Giver.
Like The Giver,
Wasn't-
they
didn't
added a love story that had nothing to do
Yeah,
with
they
the
just
book.
add it.
They added a love story, yeah.
And it's hard because this is a memoir. Writing a book is tough. And, I don't want to be insulting anybody here, but as she's writing, I thought that her style of writing was to show that she needed growth. And so I was like, maybe the vibe I'm getting off this writing that I don't like is because she's setting the stage that she's going to grow throughout the thing and then she'll be a changed person at the end. But at the end, I felt like she was kind of the same person. Oh, that wasn't like a writing decision. This is just the person she's become is what I see at the beginning. I think this kind of like sums it up. She's writing an email to her friends in the States and she's like, please give money. There's a woman who needs our help. That's great. Because she's using her resources that she has, which is access to money to help this woman who spends her life helping other people. That's great. But then she goes, the daughter's name is Tutti, and in Italian, Tutti means everybody. And to summarize, is something like, sometimes when you set out in the world to help yourself, you end up helping everybody. And I think that kind of summarizes the vibe that I didn't like about this book is that she's going through here, meeting all these people who are helping her and giving their energy to help others. And I feel like there's other books that I've read that gives that the message that when you set out to help everybody, then sometimes you end up helping yourself. And it's kind of like the opposite. I like that idea. If you go help everybody, then maybe you learn something about yourself. But she went out to help herself. And that's what the journey is about, is helping herself. And I know that it's all about finding herself and stuff, but she's meeting all these people in the story who are trying to help her. Her view was, I'm trying to help myself, and I end up helping everybody.
Yeah, like the savior again.
In like a journey, a soul-seeking story, I would prefer the ones where somebody goes out being like, I need to go help others to find out who I am.
I think it's
Mhm.
important to remember this is pre-Me Too. This is pre-Black Lives Matter. This is pre all of this white fragility, right? So she doesn't even have the messaging or the self-awareness that it might look badly on you. She doesn't recognize her own privilege yet, right? Privilege hasn't been brought to the forefront, especially of white consciousness, of like, hey, like things that you completely take for granted that you don't even realize are actually privileges that you were given. You didn't do anything to get that. It's just because you're white and the history of whatever has created you to have this advantage, but you didn't earn it. So like Leah, when you liked it the first time, there hadn't been a lot of conversations around women exploring, like Untamed is newer, right? Like these are the books that are now like, I decided, fuck it, right? And at some point, I'm sure as women, we didn't even consciously know that we felt that way, but then to see someone write about it and it appears so brave and brand new, it's exciting, right? It's like, yes, go to Italy just to do nothing and whatever, right? And the same thing with all of the cringy, questionable parts now, like no cancel culture yet, none of it, right? So she's just like, blah, 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 I'm so great. Here's my story. It's so great,
Yeah.
right? And at that time, some people were like, that is a pretty great story.
She was like, I'm doing something none of my friends would do. I'm so brave
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so much has changed.
to leave the security of the life I knew,
Right.
to go live a life,
To go rough it.
to go rough it in
Yeah.
these other places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like she actually did it.
Rough it in somebody else's life.
She's probably a good person, etc. But when you add the layer of knowledge that's included with understanding how white fragility plays out, or just anti-racism in general, then you can see a whole bunch of blind spots. But I mean, I guess they're blind spots that we all shared and only have recently kind of opened our eyes to, but you can see them now way more clearly. And obviously in 2008, we weren't really seeing them because lots of people liked it, right? And then now we're reading it and it's like, I don't know, it sounds a little bit whatever, right? So
Yeah, maybe I'm not being fair to how much has changed.
Yeah.
I think that that's valid. But isn't it also crazy that it was just 2008? Like, doesn't that feel like not that long ago? And really it's like 15, is it 15 years?
Yeah, it wasn't the 90s.
But when you read the book, it feels like really long ago, right? Like you're just like, wow.
Changed so
Yeah.
much.
I wonder what the author thinks about how the book aged.
I know that she went on tours, was all like, you can do it too. And like I don't know what the, white fragility label is for it, but she was all like, everybody can do this. Anyone can do whatever they want. Trying to be inspirational. She thought she was being motivational, inspirational. And I think she got pushed back on. And then she kind of was like, I'm sorry. I hadn't even acknowledged yet that some people actually can't just pick up and leave their husband because they've got 3 kids.
Yeah, she touches on that in
Yeah.
the 10th anniversary. So I guess that would have been 2018.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she touches. Hi.
Oh, Ashley.
Hi.
Hello,
Look at this.
Ashley.
Hello.
She's getting
You're
her sound
tropical.
working.
I like her figuring things out face.
This is mine. Mine's like this, where I look like people are like, "Are you angry?" I'm like, "No, I'm just learning."
Hi. No
Hello,
worries.
everyone. It's great to see
Oh.
everyone.
Hi, Ashley.
Nice to see you. You
Hello,
look like you're
hello.
somewhere tropical.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish. I'm just in
Yeah.
Seattle though, so I'm not in
Oh.
Canada. Yep.
Ooh, that's exciting.
It
Oh,
is.
that is
fun.
exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. What's the weather like there?
Oh, rainy.
Rainy.
Yeah,
Very
rainy. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
really curly hair. I woke up, my hair was like out to here today. Just
That's great.
like frizzy. So
We were just I guess, did you read Eat, Pray, Love?
yes, I did.
And did you love it? Did you hate it? And did you watch the movie?
Yeah, so I did read it. I will say going into it, I was kind of like, I don't really want to read this. And I think it's because when the movie came out, I was in my early teens and it just did not resonate with me whatsoever. I was like, that doesn't look like a book or a movie I want to do. And so I've had that kind of in the back of my mind.
Sure.
But now that I'm older, oh my gosh, I felt like it was such a good book. I really liked how she talked about depression, and then also just how do we know what we're supposed to do? Are we happy with our lives? Yeah, so I ended up really loving it. So I'm very happy that it was like one of our book picks because I would have never read it by myself.
How old are you if you want to tell the world?
Oh, I'm 28, turning 29.
I wonder if it's the age.
It totally is because, like, as women, I think, I mean, everybody has their own journey, obviously, but I think as women, you only become more bold or more comfortable as you get older or whatever. Like, I was saying to someone the other day, at 40, I'm satisfied with what my body looks like. And you look backwards at pictures like when you're 20 and you're like, oh my God, I thought I was fat. And
Yes.
holy crap, I wish that is what I was right now. Like with what I know, I wish that's what I was. I always have that dissonance. And we're just saying, like, a lot of the people on the panel here before you got here, Ashley, are like, we hate the book now. Not me. I still kind of liked it. But
Me too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But people were like, oh my God, it didn't age well and holy crap and whatever, right? But and then like, why did it mean so much to me? But I think it's
Yes.
because when you're a woman of a certain age, some messaging is more appealing. And then when you're a woman of a certain age, like now, you already know that. You already had your own Eat, Pray, Love, whatever version of it. So you already kind of got there, I guess. How old was she? 33 when she wrote it?
It was, yeah, wasn't she in her
35-ish.
early? Okay, I was gonna say she was in her earlier mid 30s. So yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
33, right? She started at 33.
Yes.
I think
Yes,
she
right?
was something in between 30 and 35. I thought she was 33 crying on the bathroom floor.
Yeah, something
Maybe.
like that. Did you watch the movie, Ashley?
No, so I haven't watched the movie yet. Again,
That'll be
because
interesting.
when the movie came out, I was like,
Don't watch it. It's bad.
is it? So I wanted to watch the movie because I like seeing what they take from books and then what they change.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. I'm interested to see it now.
Yeah, you'll watch it more as an investigative journalist than a
investigative
fan
journalist.
Oh,
looking
totally.
to have a
Well,
book
it was
brought
a
to
good
life.
thing I felt like they touched on in the early part of the book that is probably very carries through, or maybe there wasn't a lot of back then, is that pressure to have a child and not conforming to necessarily wanting the like stereotypical heterosexual relationship with the child and the white picket fence. And I'm sure that there wasn't a lot out there back in 2008 kind of touching on that topic, and just like a woman admitting that she's not sure.
Yeah.
That she's not sure.
That she did not
and that
sure
she
she
got
wants
all
a
the
kid.
ducks in a row, and here she is crying on the bathroom floor. I don't want this, and that's a really scary thing to say back then and today, to say that out loud with the pressure that's familiar pressure when like, where's my grandbabies kind of stuff, and like just societal pressure all around, which is I think just a really brave thing to talk about, especially back then.
Yeah, it's definitely more accepted for people now to choose not to have children, but still you'll get people being like, oh, but if you had one, you'd feel different. And you'd be like, maybe I would regret it and be like, oh
my God, like I literally just did this to someone this week and I was like, what is my problem? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting point because I think part of the reason I resonated so much is I also feel that way now. So growing up, I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to have a farm and I'm going to have like 10 kids because that's just what my family did, right? But anytime in movies or books or even friends were like, I'm pregnant and having a baby, I'm like, that's a choice. And so like I have like a negative reaction, right? But it's because I don't want kids, and I didn't even realize that until a few years ago. And even when I'm talking to like some of my best friends and I say that, they'll go, oh, once you find the right person, you'll change your mind. And I hope not, because
and you're like, no, the right person also won't want children. That's how I'll know they're right.
Yeah.
Because it's a deal breaker for me, right?
And it's a deal breaker for other people if you don't want it. Yeah.
It's so hard for people to like wrap it around. But cool, my mom has accepted it and considers my dog her grandbaby. So
lovely.
Nice.
Oh, totally.
Good
Hey.
mom. What a good mom. Good moms, right?
Yeah,
it's nice.
Totally. Yeah.
It's nice to be like, this is your choice. Because a lot of people want to be grandparents. Some people don't. It's not for everybody. Just like kids. Not for everybody. they're exhausting and
Okay.
they're a lot. They take a lot from you. But for some people, they give back, and for some people, they're like, oh,
Mhm.
maybe I didn't want to do that. You know?
I
Yeah.
read somewhere that it's better to regret not having kids at the end of your life than regret having them.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's
Okay.
what I think of too, because some people will be like, well, what about when you die?
I'll be dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll be dead. Cool. And now I won't have kids to mourn me. Those poor souls won't have to deal with the death of a parent.
That
okay?
reminds me of something like I get this not often as much anymore. People ask with sometimes the quantity of tattoos I have, and they'll be like, what about when you're old? And it's like, I'll be wrinkly with tattoos. Like as if it'll just be the same skin, like as if that's a thing. Like I'll want to wash them off then.
Yeah. You can specialize in tattoos for people who are getting old. Be like, usually the skin sags this way, so it'll start looking like a flower, and then when you're older, it'll look like a tree with no leaves.
Age into it. I was like, I'll just look like wrinkly, colorful wrinkles.
Or whatever. It turns into a goldfish as you get older. Like, wouldn't that be cool?
Can you imagine? That'd be amazing.
Like, whereas it folds in together, it's a different thing, and you could stretch it out and be like, this is what it really looked like when I was young.
Gross. I
Oh
love it.
my God, that's hilarious.
You could probably do it with like chest, because like women, as we get older, it gets wrinkly, like up and down wrinkles, kind of like this. You could like stretch it out
Does it
or
not with
squeeze
men?
it together. I don't see as
Oh.
many old man chests.
You know what it's like? It's like those Mad magazines. Remember you folded them over and it would say like,
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah,
is
yeah.
whatever, then you fold it over to get the answer.
Exactly.
You start doing those for chest
I
tabs.
love it.
I like that a lot.
Like it.
They start thinking about it, Leah. You could be a specialty. The tattoo that ages gracefully with you.
Listen, head of the curve.
Yeah, celebrating our aging was
I
nice.
like it. Just to find that funny. It's like, I'll just be old. Yeah, like what are you gonna do if you don't have kids when you get old? I'll be old.
I'll be old.
I'll be old.
I'll be old and rich.
And I won't have kids.
Yeah.
Like I'll still be the same.
There's a good line in the movie actually where Viola Davis says when they're talking about having kids and Viola Davis's character is changing her baby and she says to the Liz character, having a baby is kind of like getting a face tattoo. You kind of want to commit.
Yeah.
Once you have it, you got it.
It's
That's
not
it.
going
You're
away.
really committed.
Yeah, I like that because it's so true. It is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel
Yeah.
like people don't think about how life-changing having a baby is. Some people just really be popping babies out like candy. You know?
You can't send them to the SPCA if you change your mind.
Oh, totally.
I don't know. This is what happened during the pandemic. All these people got dogs. And then they're like, after it ended, they're like, I don't know if I'm a dog person anymore. They don't fit into my life. And they got rid of their dogs, which I think is terrible. Coming from someone who plans several years ahead when to get a dog, what dog we're going to get, and what breed, and where she's going to go when we go away. I'm a big planner with pets, but like, still. If you make that commitment, you're committing to a life. Our society is set up that you don't actually have to commit your life to the dog. You can send it to SPCA, where it might be destroyed.
In 10 years, they might.
Is that too dark?
I mean, it's
kinda dark.
realistic. It's the same
True.
thing as
True. This is
the way
true.
we eat meat. If you want to get really dark, you know,
Let's get dark.
If you want to double down on dark.
there's not the same respect for animals that there is for other humans, I think is the summary of your point,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Even for babies, like I think children and babies being their own person.
Mm.
Oh, you're my child and you will do A, B, and C and have zero autonomy. And then they go out into the world and it's like, I've had no autonomy my whole life. Sometimes people treat kids as these dolls and toys.
Or like a way to undo their regrets. You're
Yes.
like, I regret not going all the way with badminton. So you will play badminton from the minute you can walk.
Yeah.
It's a classic bad parent badminton metaphor.
That's true.
It's a tale as old as time, really.
So many regrets with badminton.
So many badminton regrets.
This story is speaking to only one listener out there.
You hit me right in the heart.
Right? One listener's like, that was my life.
There's poor children. They have to play badminton.
My nephew's in badminton, so it almost relates too well.
Which
What about
country
you,
would
Leah?
y'all want to go? In the book, you can choose from Italy. We're not going to get specific into region, but what country would you choose, Ashley? Italy, India, or Bali?
Oh, that is so hard. Okay, if I'm traveling alone, I'm probably going to Italy. But if I'm with a group of people, I would love to go to Bali so much. Yeah, I think it would just be absolutely amazing. What about you guys?
I have
Anyone,
no
Kim?
desire really to go to Italy. I would go. I think it's got like a lot of culture stuff. I like going to museums and whatnot. Yeah, probably Bali. I don't know much about what is to be had in those places. So
Sarah, what about you?
I've already been to India and I went alone.
Nice flex.
So, yep.
so India, the food would be good.
I liked India. Yeah, the food was great. I think if I had to choose, I would probably choose somewhere I haven't been because I'd like to go somewhere I haven't been. I would lean towards Bali over Italy, but I would go with either. But I'm not like desperate to go to either one of those places, but I think I wouldn't mind visiting Bali.
We lost Kim. Is she frozen? Or
Kim,
is
are
she
you
still-
frozen? No, she blinked.
I don't know. I don't feel like traveling right now, so it's hard for me to answer. And I'm all being really analytical too. I'm like, how long is the flight to Bali?
It's fucking intense. I just did it in June. We spent the month there.
Nice.
It's on paper, probably 22 hours of flying, but there's downtime, obviously, depending on how many flights you take. It is backbreaking.
You literally went to Bali for a month in June?
Yeah, in June. Yeah.
Is that why you chose this book, you think? Do you think you chose this book partially because you went there and you're like,
Yeah,
choose
I
that book
do.
again?
I think on some level.
Right? Yeah. Without even knowing it?
And I think I chose Bali on some level back in my mind, back in the day of my list of places I wanted to go because of this book, I think.
Oh, that's neat.
Okay, so wait a minute. Who did you go with and what were you doing?
I went with my husband and my daughter. Well, I'm like the queen of impulsive behavior, but this was one of my impulsive behavior. And early in my sobriety, my impulsive behavior was at a crazy upswing because of it was a coping tool,
Rebalancing
I guess. So I
levels.
was spending like a mofo. So I just booked it. I booked it. Went on Airbnb and I booked it. I was like, I'm doing all the things I want to do. If I can feel this uncomfortable and this much pain, then I need to have things I can look forward to.
Makes
And
sense.
it worked. It got me through the first 3 months of sobriety. Yeah, it was amazing. It was a great trip. Prices were really low because of just like coming out of the pandemic. It was all good. There's a lot about it. This is probably the same for India, Sarah. You can probably speak to this. It's like, oh, yeah, it's busy there. And then there's like Indonesia busy. Like as many people live in Canada, live on the island of Bali. So driving anywhere is insane, anxiety producing, insane. And it's very beautiful and very culturally beautiful. We preferred the islands surrounding Bali for lots of reasons, but it was totally worth doing.
For me, when I went to India, there was another friend of mine who read this book in 2008 and she was obsessed with it. That's why I read it. And she wanted to take Italian lessons. And she asked me to take Italian lessons with her because she was so into this book. So I took Italian lessons with her and we were going to go to India. And I always wanted to go to India, not just because of this book. This was before I read it even. And I was like, I'll go to India with you because I've always wanted to go. Then she lost interest. She went to like 3 Italian lessons and the one I went by myself. I'm like, I'll take Italian by myself because of this book.
Who am I going to talk to? I'm supposed to talk to you.
I'm very bad at languages anyway, so it was bad.
You're like, this is
And
a stretch
then,
for me, and I did it for you.
And then she bailed on India. I had someone else say they'd go if she bailed because they knew her. And then they were like engaged. So they're like, oh, we can't go now because I'm engaged. I got to save for my wedding. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Kara said, I'll go with you. I have a friend that lives in India.
Yeah, right.
And then she ended up bailing. I can't remember why.
Kara's not going to India.
I love your sister reaction. Yeah, right. Like right away. Like you're not
I
going,
know,
you
like,
liar.
Yeah, right. She is not a traveler. She's such a liar.
I assumed that Kara's like, that other person will go.
She wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the sister vision. Being like, mm-mm.
No, she's just speaking with her heart, though, right? Like she
Right.
wasn't planning ahead.
Her heart wants to go, but her head won't let her.
Her heart wanted to go, but she didn't think about the logistics.
She'll never go.
Fibber!
She didn't. And then I was like, screw it. I'm going anyway. I said I'm going in October. I always wanted to go to India. I'm just going to find a tour group or whatever so I'm not completely adrift. So I found one that was, they just book your hotels
just
and
do
your
it.
transportation to different places. So yeah, I even went to where the Dalai Lama's temple is. It was
Alone.
awesome. But it was because of this book that's
Nice.
the reason I went to India, not because I read this book, but because someone else was like, we need to go to India and let's learn Italian.
No way. Well, that's kind of fun.
I wonder how many people went to India after reading this book.
I
Wonder.
wonder if they had going there, they had a very cultural shock.
Yeah, I
You know,
bet.
like maybe not
Sure.
like fully knowing what they were getting themselves into and just being like, oh my God, I'm going here because of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
totally.
India's like, I think you think it's everybody's doing yoga and stuff. It's not like that at all.
Yes.
People are living their lives and it's really busy and it's just so busy. There's so many people. It's outrageous how many people are in India.
But that's just
And
Canadians, right? Like, our personal space bubble is humongous, right?
So big.
Because we've got space. There's so many places you can go where you're like, why is that person so close to me? And they're just
Me,
like, why is this
yeah.
person standing so far away? Do they not
Yeah.
like me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably everyone's thinking something different. Like, oh, those Canadians, they like a lot of space.
No,
Yeah.
I found that traveling, there's no reason to lean against me. Why are we doing this? But I guess it's just everyone's used
It's
to different
fine.
things.
We might
It's
have to touch
amazing.
each other's bodies even if we don't know each other.
Yeah,
Thank
I went to Asia a few years ago, South Korea and Japan. I wasn't as shocked at how condensed everything was. I had more of a cultural shock coming back to Canada. I was like, there is so much space. It almost felt more dystopian coming back, seeing how much extra space there was. And yeah, most of the time they respect your personal space. In South Korea, we were like walking arm in arm together with strangers. It's so interesting to see different parts of the world and just based on their population, how they interact with each other.
I remember when I was in China telling people that in Canada, a lot of people have their own garden. They're like, even in the cities? And I was like, yeah. They're like, wow, it's very beautiful there. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it
wow.
is. Yeah.
I can remember we were at Niagara Falls once with Josh's brother. It was like a tour bus of people who were clearly a different race. I can't remember just by looking. They were not white, but that doesn't mean that they weren't from our country or anything. But I think that they may not have been because I think that there was a brush up of cultural differences that wasn't understood. So I think that Fred was like maybe one or something. And so like the brother may have been holding a door open for me, but then this rush of like 40 people were just like, brrr, and like all pounded through the door and like didn't even care about him or anything. He was like very upset that like all because he was so upset. I always remember thinking, I don't know that they even know that that might be felt as like rude or aggressive. I think that they were just traveling through the world as they do wherever it might not be. Because if you're in a place that has crazy population and everything's so busy, that's just how you roll. So
You're like, oh, like this nice person opening the door for everybody.
yeah.
Maybe they work.
Yeah, maybe he worked. They thought he worked there.
That's interesting. We talk a lot about what's rude and what's polite. Because sometimes when you tell your kids stuff, they're like, why not? I'm like, it's considered rude here. Or like, you know,
right?
where we live, it's considered rude.
Here.
And they're like, well, why is it rude? And you say, well, because where we live, the culture says this. But if you went somewhere else, the opposite might be considered rude. So you just got to learn before you go.
Yeah, like here, people don't say please. There's no translation for please.
Oh.
So even in translation, if you say like mema, the translation is give me. Like, give me that. Like, give mema. Also, little things like when you're eating, when you're done eating, you get up and leave. It's not like you wait for everyone else to finish. You're done. So you get up and leave. And it's not rude. You have completed eating. You're not required to eat more than you want to eat or
We should do this in my house.
Oh, Sarah, this means you're always alone at the table at the end, because anyone who's eaten a meal with Sarah knows that this is a long haul. This is a waiting man's game.
Maybe that's a family thing, because I'm always the last two. Between you and me,
Great for your
Sarah. See, me and
digestion.
Sarah can just sit
Great
there
digestion.
and eat for a long time and be completely happy.
I'm a very slow
No,
eater.
it's not unhappy. It's just amazing how you really take care of chewing. You're doing a good job. Listen, I think it's good health.
I can't eat quickly. I think I trained myself as a child because, you know, they said it at some point when I was a kid, you're supposed to chew your food so many times before swallowing.
30 times or something.
I remember a teacher or some sort of health person in school telling us that because I'm such a obedient person, especially a child. I can't eat fast. I start to gag. If I try to hurry to eat something, I start to look, oh, I can't force myself to eat quickly. I just have to decide not to eat if I don't have time to eat. Because I can't force it down.
I just had a flashback. Did you do that at a Red Lobster once?
Flashback.
Was that
Is that you?
She's laughing like it was.
Yeah, so at the Red Lobster, I wasn't trying to eat quickly, but what happened was we were talking and you said something shocking. We were with Nancy, another friend, and you said something shocking and I laughed. I went like this, but I had food in my mouth and it got
She
lodged.
choked, man.
Not a pretend choke, a choke where no air is coming in or out. Like I was actually choking, like dying choking. And I realized it. And then I remember literally thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die in the Red Lobster. It's the end of my life in a Red Lobster. I was so mortified.
No, that's not.
And I got up and started making a scene like, and Kim was like, do you need me to do the Heimlich? Do you need, and I was like, yes. And then she came to do it, but then I guess it was bread or something and it dissolved. And then I was like, it was a big scene with everyone staring at me. I was like, and I was like, it got caught. And Kim was like, yeah, no, we got that.
We got that. You almost died at the Red
Thanks.
Lobster.
Because when you did your gagging thing, I was like, I know that face.
That's a dying face.
I saw that face in Red Lobster, 1997.
I haven't been to Red Lobster since then. I used to love Red Lobster.
For the listeners that don't know, Red Lobster is a chain restaurant in Canada. I don't know if it's anywhere else. That's a seafood chain restaurant where you can get fairly reasonably
scampi.
priced seafood.
And the Admiral's Feast. Everybody loves their cheese biscuits. These are the things that you would highlight about Red Lobster.
Yeah.
I might have been choking on a cheese biscuit. That might be
Oh
what
my
I was
God.
choking
That's highly likely.
Embarrassing.
You guys are gonna get sued by Red Lobster.
For what? Telling the truth? Those things are dangerous.
Sellers.
We should sue
But-
them.
Yeah.
Yes, Ashley.
Yes. I'm all about
Watch it,
suing
Red
people.
Lobster. We're lucky you didn't get sued yourself.
Holy moly.
Okay, well, is there
Well-
anything else anyone wants to add about the book?
We should
Eat, Pray,
say
Love?
Are we
we
recommending?
recommend it.
Yeah,
I do not
So?
recommend it. It was a slog. I didn't like it at all.
I'll go next.
Who's next?
I still
Okay.
recommend it with the caveats of remember when this was written, but I still like it. I do. Yep. Don't
Okay.
listen to the audiobook if you're looking for a good time. That's not
Yeah.
it.
That's not
Got
it.
it. I don't think I would recommend it.
Oh, you wouldn't?
No, I don't think so. I was really, I don't know. Me today, I know this was my book choice, but me today, I don't think I would choose to read this ever again. I don't think I'd pass it on, though I will probably put it in the little book nooks that are outside for donation books. No, it didn't do it for me. And that's a weird experience because, you know, you look back on things so differently. Apparently, I'm not 2008 Leah,
That's good.
as it turns out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You grew.
There you go.
I'm the same as Kim. I would still recommend it, but I'd say like it's kind of outdated. And also, I would say I've read other things from Elizabeth Gilbert since, and I think her writing's even better now than this book. I've read fiction and nonfiction from her that I really enjoyed, and I think she has come even further in her writing style. Like I enjoy her books now. So I'd still recommend it, but same as Kim, I'll be like, just remember when this was written, and this is before she became this big writer, and you know, this is her journey. And now with Ashley, I would probably say, you know, it's for someone that's in their late 20s, early 30s kind of thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I would recommend to a specific age group. And I think it would probably be like my age group. But I do agree. Again, I would also say just remember when it was written. But to that point, I think it's also important for people to read. I guess it's not supposed to be a timepiece, but it kind of is. And it's like that's kind of what life was like for a lot of women at that time. And so, yeah, I think it's important for people to read that because, again, I was growing up through that and it didn't resonate with me then. But now I'm like, I didn't even realize I was dealing with so many of the same things she was. It's same time, just different ages kind of thing. So, yeah, I would recommend because I think it's important to see what life was like for different groups of people in certain time periods.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Gilbert herself, I believe, has grown as anyone from 2008 would. But I think that she's owned some things. Like Glennon Doyle knows her. They're really good friends. I think is it Elizabeth that she talks about in the book is Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yeah. it
Anyway,
is.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean with what I started. It doesn't prove anything.
Good enough for Glennon, good enough for.
She knows Glennon Doyle, you guys, so she totally grew.
There's a point in there. I'm not sure what it is. I'll figure it out.
Do you know that she's not with that guy anymore? Felipe? What's his name again?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Like, she got married. I read their second book, Committed.
Yeah.
It wasn't as good. And she did get married to him, but maybe COVID time, maybe, or just before COVID, they got divorced and she was in a romantic relationship with a woman. I don't know what she identifies as, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so she's been on like a big, long love journey.
And she wrote a whole thing
Yeah,
about it.
similar to Glennon Doyle.
Cool.
Yeah. So she ended up leaving him to be with this woman, and I'm not sure if
That woman
I don't
died.
wanna- Did she? I wasn't sure. I didn't know if she died or not, but she was very ill.
Yeah, you don't want to say somebody died if they didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
2 lawsuits coming your way, coming in hot.
You
Red
heard it here
Lobster and
first.
Elizabeth Gilbert.
This is the lawsuit episode.
This is a lawsuit episode.
This isn't the only one. There's lots of misinformation I like to
Oh
spew.
my god.
Imagine
oh
they
my
come
god.
to sue us and they're like, so we're suing Sarah, Leah, Meredith, Ashley, and Rigatoni.
Rigatoni.
Yeah, they name us in the... And the lawyers are like, the pasta?
And rigatoni.
Rigatoni.
This is Red Lobster versus Rigatoni.
That's the name of this episode. Red Lobster versus Rigatoni. One hundo.
I know that our time is up, but did anybody try to
Yes,
think of what the word for their city was? You know, she's like, every city has a word, and Rome's word is sex.
Mhm.
Anybody try to think of
Yeah.
what the word of their city was?
Oh.
No,
Let's
it's
take a
tough.
minute
It's not
though
fun.
to do it.
Okay, I asked my husband, like, what is it for our city? This is as good as we got. We figured it's giver. Get a giver.
Ever.
Yeah, okay. Because people are always like, let's give her. A lot of people have like snowmobiles and side by sides and they mountain bike and they snowboard and they're always giving her, right? But it's
Very
a northern
Canadian.
community. It's a northern community. So like volunteer work and actually giving back is a huge part of the culture. So people are also giving their time
Yeah, they're
as well.
givers.
So we thought it was a nice like giver. And people use the term giver all the time. Let's give her.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love
How are you doing? I'm giving her.
Yeah, I like it.
My word, I think, is peace. We live in the most peaceful place. Everybody asks when they see you on the street because it's so small. Like, you greet everyone and they say, like, negative, which means, are you at peace? You always say, Jam Rake. Like, I'm at peace. Everyone's at peace.
Peace.
Are you at peace? Yeah.
Peace is nice.
him. I'm interested to see what you think since we now live in the same city.
Well, I don't live in the city that I work in.
Oh, I guess that's true, Habe. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
I can't believe you
That
made that mistake,
city-
Ashley.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm just thinking about my city that's not even really a city if you want to be legal about it. Like, I don't even know. Mine's like a district.
A town.
And
Yeah,
I-
mine's like a village.
Mine's not like,
City.
and mine's not even a town. Like, it's not incorporated or anything. It's just an area of a larger. I don't even know. I don't understand. It's that complicated. But the first thing that came to my mind was sleepy.
Mm.
Is that because it's early morning?
No, and then I thought
I would
Karen.
like to be sleepy. Karen?
And Karen. Because I thought about like the Facebook community here where someone will post something like anonymous on Facebook and then everybody else will attack them.
that's why it's anonymous?
Including the ironic attack of, why would you post anonymously? And it's like, read the 50 comments above yours, sir.
Because of the attack. That was
It's actually
coming.
him that keeps posting anonymously.
It's me.
Rigatoni.
Rigatoni.
And then there's also like this flip side of community. So I was trying to be really smart and say like meanie, attacky, as well as supportive. So whatever that is, dysfunctional.
Contradictive.
Yeah, ironic.
think-
Okay, yeah, because I'm
Old.
interested to hear what you're gonna say now.
Yeah, I
Old?
was just gonna say old. You know, there's a lot of older people. Like, it's a retirement town, right? And I feel like you can really feel that outside of summer. Summer, it feels so lively, but the rest of the year, yeah, it feels old.
It's definitely like a everything's closed on Monday type of town.
Everything's closed from like noon to 4 every day. Everything closes at 8 p.m.
Or
Like,
sooner. Like
So-
it's
or
Christmas, and I'm
sooner.
like, I can't even go shopping after 5 p.m. Like, when am I supposed to buy my presents outside of my work hours?
yes. So I do think it's like a cute, quaint town, but definitely old.
Okay. What do you say, Leah?
I'm really thinking about this because 4 of 5 of us have lived here. I live here presently, and it's not a bad place. It's a very beautiful place to live, but There's something about where I live and where some of you have lived. There's something pretend about it.
Yes, good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I don't know if pretend
like
is
that.
too harsh. I was like looking up
Synonyms for
words that
fake.
are synonyms like counterfeit.
Yes.
Sham sounds not right.
Perform. Not
Perform. Yeah,
perform, but
there's
almost
a
like
perform
there's
or
a
yeah, there's something about it that's keeping up with the Joneses. Like everybody's
You got to do it this way.
facade.
Yeah.
like a competitive, but not in an ambition business sort of way. There's like a fake plastic trees kind of way.
Yeah,
So-
Maybe
no.
plastic.
Lego.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lego.
plastic.
Yeah, so that's beautiful, but it's really surface heavy.
So is
Visually.
Barbie.
Barbie, yeah.
It's Barbie.
All right, guys. Well,
Great.
thanks for your time. I look
Great.
forward to seeing you again. I'm going to try to jump in on some, well, I think on Mare's book.
I'm going to
Oh,
be done
nice.
these books so fast. I'm trying to like balance between audiobooks and actually reading books.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I have to get on.
Yeah.
Oh wait, one of them's Ashley's book, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're done.
So you're already done that.
I read that one already. I haven't seen the movie yet.
I'm excited to see that
No.
movie.
Okay, let me know if y'all want to go see it. It will be my fourth time. I will go see it again. Yeah. I Snowland's on top, y'all. I will say
I'm
that's
so excited to see it.
yes, I will say if you are reading the book, the audiobook isn't my favorite.
Mayor said
Um,
already.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
because it's the ballad, there is a lot of singing, and just the person who does the audiobook doesn't have like a super nice singing voice, and it's kind of
They
like
don't say.
hurts the ears a bit. So that's my only thing about the audiobook for that. Otherwise, like it was fine.
I can't believe an audiobook wouldn't take advantage of the opportunity to put actual song in there, as well as the franchise of Hunger Games to
Mhm,
not have a #1 single or something if they could actually produce
this song.
mhm,
You can
absolutely.
get a Grammy from the audiobook because I just read Viola Davis's audiobook, which is amazing, by the way. If you haven't listened to it, don't read it. It's so good. She won a Grammy for it, her audiobook of her memoir.
Nice.
Did she sing?
She's singing it.
No, she just read her
Her
audiobook
beautiful voice.
and it was
a good performance.
so good. And because it's audio, anyway.
Okay, well, great. So you can get a Grammy for an audiobook regardless of whether there's a song in it.
Yes.
However, because the format lends itself to music,
There's a lot of songs in that
you
book.
would think if there was music in a book, you would jump on that, not just recite it.
I wonder, maybe they'll re-record it now that the movie's out, because they could actually have the songs from the movie embedded in the book.
It needs to,
Hunger
exactly.
Games
If it's
franchise.
not, that's a
Please do
major
this.
miss.
Please do
I
this.
completely agree, Kim, but I will also say the original trilogy, the audiobooks were also not good.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's such a powerful moment when Katniss goes and volunteers for her sister, right? In the book, she goes, it's just like it's such an intense moment. She goes, I volunteer. No emotion.
Not I
like, like, it was-
volunteer.
yeah, like there was no, I think the Hunger Games needs to get it together with the audiobooks, totally. And I do hope they redo it because the music it's not great. So just
Okay, sneak peek. Let's
All
save
right.
it. Yes.
We have to save it for next time. Yeah.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right. This interruption is brought to you by Unpublished. Do you want to know more about the members in Book Interrupted? Go behind the scenes? Visit our website at www.bookinterrupted.com.
Book interrupted.
Hi, everyone. Currently, I'm having a physical interruption. Not to my body, but to my environment. Recently, my son has taken a liking to hockey. And because he's a good dad, my husband has also joined in the hockey fever. So now, a place where we live that didn't have very much space already is even more full of stuff because, of course, we have all the gear. So I'm really super happy for my son. I'm happy that he likes that and wants to play. And I'm super happy for my husband and my son because they get to now spend all this time together having some solid father-son time. But I'm very, very unhappy about my space because it is even more cluttered than it usually is. And for me, that causes me anxiety. I don't know what we'll do. Hopefully, this is what keeps me hanging on, is dreaming about my son potentially being an NHL hockey player one day. And then I'll look back at all this clutter one day from my mansion and laugh. Hopefully.
Book interrupted.
It's book report time. We're going to find out from each member their final thoughts and do they recommend the book? Let's listen.
Hi, this is my personal journal for Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I have mixed feelings about this book. It was my book choice, first of all. So, that being said, I feel like a lot has changed since I originally read this book and watched the movie, and it does not speak to me the way it did then, which is very strange because I really loved this book and the movie for different reasons back in the kind of early 2000s. When I read it, I think around probably 2010, it's changed for me quite a bit. But the underlying message of self-discovery and kind of carving out and creating your own spiritual path does resonate with me still. And that still touches me, and it is still very important to me today. My version has a 10th anniversary preface, which she does say something in it that I thought was worth mentioning. Here we go. It's on 21 of the preface. So, who am I? Who does my life belong to? What is my relationship with divinity? What have I come here to do? Do I have the right to change my own path? With whom do I want to share my path, if anyone? Do I have the right to experience pleasure and peace? If so, what would bring me pleasure and peace? It is true that for most of world history, women were not allowed to ask any of these powerful questions, but we can finally ask them today. And I think that is very true, that like looking back on this book, then to now, so much has changed, and so much has changed for us women in the world, and just to be grateful to be able to ask ourselves these questions and explore these different life paths, I think is really important. And she kind of really sums it up in those questions to ask yourself in life. Another part that did resonate with me still is the way she so freely speaks about her depression and loneliness, which I think was what touched me most then and carries through to now, is the way she doesn't shy away from it. Back then, maybe there wasn't as much writing as there is now. Like today in 2023, mental health is such an important topic. It always has been, but there wasn't the language around it. I really think that she spoke about it in a time when people weren't. There's a section early in the book on page 52 and 53 where her depression comes with her to the first part of her journey in Italy, and she kind of assigns depression and loneliness as two characters, good cop, bad cop style, and she does such a great job describing them like they're people who found her. And on page 53, she writes this, and it really kicked me right in the chest when I read it. It's not fair for you to come here, I tell depression. I paid you off already. I served my time back in New York. But he just gives me that dark smile, settles into my favorite chair, puts his feet on my table, and lights a cigar, filling the place with his awful smoke. Loneliness watches and sighs, then climbs into my bed and pulls the cover over himself, fully dressed, shoes and all. He's going to make me sleep with him again tonight. I just know it. And that, it gives me shivers up my spine. That's just like that description of loneliness crawling into bed with you, depression throwing its feet up in your life and blowing smoke into your world and your mind and just not caring. It's such a powerful few sentences that just really brings up so much emotion in me, and I thought just a beautiful piece of descriptive writing there. Anyways, like I said, my feelings are mixed about the book, but she is one hell of a writer. There's no denying that. So that's all I have to say, and thanks for listening. Bye.
So, this is my second read. I've read this book before. I read it when it first came out. I think it was around 2008-ish. And I really liked it then. I believe I'm the one that suggested it to Kim, and Kim loved it. I remember she carried around her backpack after she finished reading it as like a comfort or something. Anyway, it was great reading it again. I really like the middle part. Actually, I like the middle and the end the best, when she is in India and then Indonesia. There is some things in this book, like I've read other books from her since, fiction and nonfiction, and there's like an insecurity in this book. like she's a lot more confident in her other books, I feel like. Her voice, her book voice. That was interesting to go back to a book before she like really hit it big, I guess, because this book did that. Also, there are things in this book that are like, ooh, I want to say, my daughter would say cringe. Like they're kind of, ooh, cringy. She uses a lot of stereotypes to describe something that kind of make you feel like, oh. So I didn't love that. But then I watched the movie afterwards, and I feel like some of the things are even worse. For instance, the part in India, she meets someone in the ashram who's a teenager and who cleans the floor with her, and she is describing to her that her sister is getting married and that her parents want her to start going to these functions and kind of getting into dating kind of thing, like be in the marriage market. That she's old enough now, she should be going to these events and stuff, meeting matchmakers and stuff like that. And she's not really that interested. But she's talking about her sister's wedding. And in the movie, they make it that she's having an arranged marriage against her will. And I really dislike that. There's also some other things, like in Italy too, that are a little like, ooh, stereotypes that I didn't love. Even in Bali, actually. In the book, she adores the characters that she's discussing and talking about. Also in the movie, how they created a whole new story for, what's her friend's name from Texas? I can't remember. He calls her groceries. Anyway, there's a whole story about him being an alcoholic and stuff, and that's not true at all. I wonder how some of these characters that really existed in real life feel about the adaptation of the movie being not real at all and taking some liberties with their lives. Yeah, so there's definitely discrepancies from the movie to the book. The book is super dense though, so obviously they would have to cut out a ton of stuff in it. I don't think they really captured, how really depressed she was. Like, she was really struggling with depression. So I don't think they really outlined that much in the movie. But in the book, I loved her talking about meditation and working out, like connecting to God and that kind of quest of finding herself and connecting with her spirit and trying to, heal her wounds and all that kind of stuff. I really liked that. I enjoyed it. I took those lessons that she was doing, or just reminding myself of different things that I do. I normally do guided meditation now, just because there's so much great guided meditation these days. But I used to just meditate in silence and maybe using a little mantra or whatever. And I haven't done that forever. So ever since reading this book, I started doing that. I would still recommend this book, but it feels a little bit outdated, maybe. I mean, it is older. And I do not enjoy the movie compared to the book. So there's that. All right, that's it for now.
Okay, this is my personal journal for Eat, Pray, Love. And I want to try to remember what I was going to say because I was saving these comments for this moment and now I don't remember them. I will tell you this. I read this book a long, long time ago, and then I came across it now in our podcast. And so I didn't want to reread it because I don't want to really reread any books. Because of that, I decided I would try audiobooks. And this was my first audiobook. And so I loved it because I was able to consume this book in like 3 days because right now my job has a major travel component. And so I have the possibility of spending 3 hours driving to and from a location in my car so I can just listen to books, which for me, I'm not even sure I can describe how excited I am about this because I am gonna crush so many books now. Can't even wait. I'm so excited about this. So it was read by the author, and I didn't really like her voice, not her actual voice, but the fact that she didn't have, I don't ever know what the right describing words are to describe the parts of language, like the non-verbal communication, your tone and your volume and your this and your that. That version of communication was really lacking in the book. This is like the author herself reading her own life story, and it was really performative. And it wasn't performative in like a on stage play type way. It was performative, like chapter 1. I wanted to do this because I wanted to do that. And I never thought about that until this. Really, really monotonous, lacking feeling and emotion, and contained and controlled. And I just didn't think it lent itself to the book because this is major life-changing moments in her life. And she just only talked in this really soft voice. And then a voice said, "Go back to bed, Liz." It was just, I don't know. Anyway, so I did not like that. And the other thing, which I mentioned in our group discussion, she also puts on accents for some of the characters in her book. And so it's just, it doesn't sound right. And I don't know if it's wrong or not, but it definitely doesn't sound right. Having a white woman do the broken English of the Balinese man that she's talking to just really did not sound nice. It just didn't come off well. So I don't know, again, if it's right or wrong. I think you're not supposed to do that because it's offensive. I also don't know when her audiobook was recorded. Were there audiobooks in 2008? I have no idea, because that's like the pass that we're giving her for some of the culturally insensitive things that are in her book or surfaced, from the content or the audiobook. So I don't know if the audiobook was 2008 too. Maybe she didn't know any better. But knowing better now, like, get actually an actor who is Balinese to speak those words so that you can have the authenticity that I'm sure she was trying to go for, which is great. But it's hilarious, actually, and ironic that she's so authentic as a Balinese man, yet she doesn't sound the slightest bit authentic as her own self. So the book itself still, I think, has a pretty good theme, and I do think it's important to, like, get to know yourself, which I think is what she was trying to do, and you can't fault anybody for that.
Hi, so we just finished reading the first book of season 4. Hard to believe we're in season 4. And it's Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I did finish reading this book. I started by reading it. As you see, I have it here from my library. And it was just taking so long, and I was not enjoying it. So I managed to get the audiobook from my library as well, and then proceeded to listen to it on double time so I could get through it faster. Yeah, I actually enjoyed the audiobook less. And you'd think it was because I was listening to it on double time, but that's not why. It's because she was doing accents of the various people that she met in her travels. I'm not really that surprised I didn't like this book. I think the audience for this book is 20-something women who feel this pressure to conform to the North American ideal of what a woman is supposed to want, like marriage and children and the big house and all the things. And that's not really who I am. I never really felt that pressure. When I was younger, I didn't really think I would get married. I couldn't see myself finding somebody that I'd want to spend the rest of my life with. Yeah, I just didn't imagine a traditional trajectory to my life. So even I think if I had read this book back when it first came out, I don't think I would have liked it either. She seemed to complain a lot in the book. Like, she went to this ashram in India, and she was supposed to do this chant every day, and she complained about it all the time. And I'm just thinking, like, you went there, you chose to go there, so just do the things that you are supposed to do when you're there. She was complaining about meditation and how boring it was, and it just came off as, kind of like a child's reaction to having to do something when it wasn't something she had to do. She chose to do it anyways, so I did not enjoy that. I guess I'm just kind of the type of person that either if I want to do something, I'm going to do it and be game. Like, she went there, so just be game for all the things you're supposed to do when you're there, or don't go there. Just realize that you don't actually want to do that. So, but a lot of people did like this book, and it spoke to them because it said something like, you don't have to conform, and you can decide what you want, what you actually want, not what other people want of you. So I get it, but I would not recommend it. We talked a lot about this in the podcast, so I won't dwell on it, but I could not help but think about the book in the context of the current year. We did the book White Fragility on the first season of the podcast, and that book taught us all a lot about, white woman tears and saviorism and a lot of themes that show up in this book. So I just couldn't get past that, I guess, when there was a lot of her crying and hearing about other people's harder lives, but still focusing on herself. So anyway, I hope that doesn't upset too many people, but this book wasn't for me, and maybe it's for you, or maybe my review here will make you realize it's not for you. So that's about it. We'll see you next time for for the next book that is movie. Oh, that's what I forgot. So this whole season we're doing books that have been made into movies. And it's quite possible that you could read this book and like it and not like the movie or vice versa. And I just have to say I didn't like either one. They're a little bit different, but I didn't like either of them for maybe the same reasons, actually. So, which is interesting, seeing as they were kind of different. Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Book Interrupted. If you'd like to see the video highlights from this episode, please go to our YouTube channel, Book Interrupted. You can also find our videos on www.bookinterrupted.com.
Have a listen to our off-the-shelf episodes. These are the silly, fun, and weird, wonderful things we do when we get off cue. So, listen to our off-the-shelf episodes to hear more from us, the Book Interrupted crew. I think you'll